Hello and welcome to the Strong and Sober Podcast, episode 11. My name, as always, is Matt Smith, aka Handsome Matt. Joined by me, as always, is my equally handsome co-host, Mr. Lucas Weaver. Lucas, how are you this fine Sunday?
It's good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm incredibly tired. I flew in from Vegas last night, or no, first thing this morning. I was up all night and I'm exhausted, but I'm here because helping people on their mission to sobriety is way more important than sleep. That is true, but that's not true. Get your sleep. It helps in lots and lots and lots of things. Also, Vegas made me realize how glad I am to be clean and sober because people in Vegas are obnoxious. But somebody who's not obnoxious is our guest for today. We're really excited about this one. He struggled with addiction very early on, had his aha moment at 20 and decided enough was enough. And now he is studying medicine for neurosurgery, and he ran the what is it, the Iron Marathon, the Ultra Marathon, the Ironstone 100K marathon. He's an endurance runner, a long distance runner who uses his ultra running as a metaphor for recovery and helping other people. I know Luke is very excited about this one too. Welcome to Mr. David Millar.
Thanks for having me, guys. Grateful to be here. Excited to chat.
Yeah, how are you this weekend?
I'm pretty good. Just at school, doing some things and running, working out, staying sober.
That marathon was on the 12th, right? The 12th of August?
Yeah, so I did the Ironstone 100K. That was the one that was dedicated to addiction. That was in July.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and then I recently did another one on the 12th that you're thinking of. That was a 24-hour run. And that one I did 109 miles. That wasn't dedicated to anything though. That was kind of just like I had a little bit of a break between medical schools, so I decided to amp up my training and get some stress out of my system, and decided to do both of those races. Um, so yeah, so that was on August. Right now I'm kind of like coming off of both of those. Just been in the gym, haven't been running as much. So
That's impressive.
Man, in addition to sobriety, we also talk a lot about strength. So even the ultra marathon, 109 miles, how do you prepare for that physically, mentally? Like what kind of training goes into doing something that physically intense?
yeah, I think I say this all the time, but I think a lot of my training was just from getting sober. I think that when you start going into races that are over a marathon distance, so 26 miles, I think a lot of it is a mental game. And I think that people in recovery specifically have a incredible pain tolerance because of what you had to go through in order to achieve long-term sobriety. So I like to think of a lot of my training, my mental training at least, as already being the money's in the bank for the most part. Now that doesn't mean I can just show up to to an ultra marathon totally unprepared. Like I also have to put in the work. I have to be honest with myself. I have to be disciplined physically. So in that regard, I was running 80-mile weeks to train for both of those events. 80-mile weeks that's just kind of my number. I also ran in undergrad and in college. So I have like a lot of experience with running and had like a pretty solid foundation because I was running through college after I got sober for a little while. And 80 mile per week is like kind of my number that I found where I get sufficient training, but I also like I'm not pushing it too much to the point where like I'm gonna get injured or yeah, so
And how do you stay locked in mentally during a run? I mean, 24 hours, that's a lot of time to just let your mind wander, to think about a bunch of different things, to kind of lose focus of your target, of your goal, which, like sobriety, there's a lot of things that can come at you that will kind of derail your progress. How do you stay locked in? Do you have a super interesting podcast that you listen to like this one? Do you just have an amazing K-pop mix that just keeps you in the zone? Like how do you mentally stay focused on your goal?
So I think for the Ironstone 100K, the one I dedicated to addiction, that one was pretty easy because I was kind of just thinking about the whole purpose behind that run and what I had dedicated that run to. So that was primarily the big thing that was keeping me on track. I was I dedicated that to like people who are still suffering. And I'm sure you guys relate to this as well, but I've also lost a lot of very close friends due to this disease. So I was thinking about the people that I've lost in my life and how much that like they would, like how much they would give to probably be like back down here to run a few miles. It was just like thinking about stuff like that. But other runs that I do, I don't know. I don't really listen to any music or anything. I kind of just lock in and try to just, you know, get through the pain. And it's really like an experiential thing for me. Like I just try to view the whole experience as a growth opportunity. And I know it's going to get hard at sometimes, and I know that I'm gonna feel like shit. And I also know that I'm gonna, have moments where I don't feel like shit. And it's kind of just like being willing to ride that emotional roller coaster. I've tried to like listen to some things. I listen to a lot of stuff when I train. I think it's like useful for me then, but like when I'm racing, I'm kind of just like too focused on the race to like really listen to anything. So I rarely do.
Are you
How could you silence? Do you silence like the negative talk? Because I know there's negative talk with like 106 miles or 109 miles.
What do you like negative? Oh,
Like
like
in
my
your
negative talk.
mind, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like that's just part. I mean, you just have to listen to it, but like not, follow any of the things that negative voice is telling you. And I think that's like a skill. And I think that's like a big reason why I like continue to like do the long races despite like being in school and being super busy. Is just because like it just humbles the shit out of me. And it every time I finish one of those races, I just am in awe about everything that I just went through to like cross the finish line. And it's just something that like I just need to recollect on like even 2 weeks after the finish, because it's just like it was just so much emotions like thrown at me at once. Like it's almost like I lived like a whole entire like 2 years within like that 24-hour race, because it just like felt so long. And the amount of emotions that like if you think about like a regular day as like a human being and you're just like going to work or whatever, it's like you don't experience like too many like ups and downs and ups and downs. But like when you're running something like a 24-hour race and you have to stay up all night and your heart rate's above 150 for 24 hours, it's just like you run into so many emotional problems in such like a short span of time that you just have to navigate through, that like by the time you finish, it's almost like you have like 2 extra years of like just experience with yourself, because you've had to talk yourself down from quitting. You've had to tell yourself to keep going. You've had to tell yourself that like you're not at your limit. You can do it. It's just like over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's wild. Because pretty much you learn yourself as you go.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big like self-discovery thing. That's the reason I do them. I mean, I like to advocate for addiction obviously, and I like to be fit, but like at the end of the day, I think it's like just more of a mental thing. And it's just more of like I get to just sit with myself and just, navigate through my thoughts and it just pays dividends for me.
is there a like a competition aspect? I know you finished eighth in the Ironstone. Are you trying to finish as far ahead as you can, or is it just I need to complete this?
Yeah, I'm competitive, so I'm always like trying to finish as far ahead as I can, but at the same time, like I think the cool thing about ultras, like if you show up to like a regular like road marathon, you'll see all the guys at the front of the start line. They got like $500 like reflective sunglasses. Everybody's got like $500 carbon plated shoes. Everybody's in like expensive like fits. But then like if and like they're trying to win, right? And then like you go to the start line of an ultra marathon, and people's like water packs are falling off their shoulder, like they're in an old t-shirt that's like cut up. Their shoes are like so old. They probably have like 400 miles on their shoes. It's just like it's not really about like the glitz and the glam and like getting first place. It's just about like everybody is there to suffer, and everybody is there to just push themselves to the absolute limit. Like it's not about like the race day pictures. It's not about getting the big fancy medal at the end of the race. It's not about posting it on Instagram after you do it. It's purely about the experience. And that's really like what I try to remind myself of, because I do get very competitive and I'm like, oh, like I want to be first. But, at the end of the day, it's just like these races are more like they're more individual, and they're more just like, we're all just fighting our own war and experiencing having our own race. So yeah.
That's wild. I think the farthest I've ever run was maybe 10 miles, so I can't imagine doing 109.
Yeah, with me, it's like I could run on the treadmill. I can't even imagine just on the trail because the treadmill, it's a lot easier.
So,
Yeah.
oh, good.
No, I was just gonna say I love running on trail. That's like it's like kind of like a meditative thing for me too. On top of everything, especially like the training. The training is just it's very meditative. Like, if I'm having like a long day at school, I love just like throwing on my shoes and like got a trail like right by my place here. So I kind of just can get lost on the trail for like 5 or 6 miles and just like de-stress, be in nature. It's like a very therapeutic, meditative experience for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's an estuary right behind my house, and it can go from anywhere like 1.8 miles to, if you do the whole thing, it winds up being something like 10, 12 miles. And even with no music, it's just really nice to get out there and just hear the nothingness, or the birds. Or I live next to a Navy base too, so you get to hear helicopters, which is super fun and relaxing. But all right, well, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, and that is your guide to sobriety and your struggle with addiction. So you struggled with addiction starting in your early teens. Now, was this just alcohol? Was this drugs and alcohol? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I was drugs and alcohol. I had picked up a drink. I come from like a family that addiction runs heavily in. I had picked up a drink when I was maybe 15 for the first time. Went a while without picking up a drink. My friends were picking up a drink before I did. I kind of like had the experience in my family. I was seeing what it was doing to family members, and I was like, I'm not trying to get into that. And I felt like I kind of had an understanding of myself too at a younger age, where like I kind of knew the way that my personality was. I was very like obsessive, still am very obsessive. Um, and I knew that if I liked something, I tended to like really go all the way in on it. So I stayed away from it as long as I could. And then eventually, I was in high school or whatever, and the opportunity presented itself yet again. And kind of just decided to do it. And quickly after that, I mean, it was just like experimenting with like weed, and then experimenting with cocaine, and then experimenting with ecstasy, and then Molly, and then crack cocaine, and just down that rabbit hole of wanting to just get my hands on anything and just being okay with putting whatever in my body to make me feel good.
And where you grew up, was this like a normal thing, like that a lot of people did? I mean, you don't hear a lot of people talking about experimenting with crack cocaine. Usually, especially for teenagers, there's a lot of weed, there's a lot of cocaine, there's a lot of Molly. Um, did you grow up somewhere where drugs were really prevalent?
No, I grew up like in a beach town kind of area, so no, not at all. And I had like a really good upbringing, all things considered. I wasn't poor, also wasn't wealthy, but was right in the middle. Had opportunity to go to high school, had an opportunity to go to college. Um, Now experimenting, I wouldn't even say it was like experimenting with crack. That might have been my fault. That was more toward the end of my addiction when I was running out of money and I was hooked on cocaine. And you run out of money, and it's just like there's things you can buy that are cheaper that do the same thing for you. So that in that regard, like no, it wasn't really experimenting with crack. It was kind of like by necessity. But all the other stuff, like yeah. But like the thing was, like I was always the one pushing it in my group. Like I was always pushing getting the bag. I was always pushing trying the ecstasy, trying the Molly. If people wanted to try it, like they knew they could come to me and like I would probably have it. Like I was just always I was the guy who had the dealer's number. I was the guy who was texting the dealer if we were getting a bag. Like I was just always in that position where like I was in the loop and I was always like trying to get some.
So, if you how did you get started on the drugs? So I understand that with alcohol, it could just be a thing that's in the family, like maybe there's a beer in the fridge. Was it like a family member who had first offered you weed, or were you at a high school party, just kind of a friend had it? And how did the progression from, an occasional drink to, desperately needing a fix and going into cocaine or to crack, how did that progression happen?
So I was drinking like pretty consistently on the weekends. I was a lifeguard on the beach over the summer. I lived like in a beach town. So we had like a lot of like lifeguard parties. And basically I was at a lifeguard party, and this is maybe after I'd been drinking for like a year or 2 years. And one of my coworkers basically like r- drawn out a line. And for the first, that was like my first time I ever did it. He was like, do this, and I just did it. And I just remember feeling like Superman. Like I just felt so good. I'd never felt that good before in my whole entire life chemically. And from that like experience on, I just knew that I was going to do that again because of how good it felt. Like I just remember being at this party and like just being able to talk to everybody, being able to make friends, being able to talk to like just not a single concern or worry in my head. Um, so from that point on, I was kind of just like, I don't know, I just didn't even worry about it. I just didn't even think that like it was an issue that I was gonna like go and try to get cocaine the next night and try to get cocaine the next weekend. Like that was just always my personality. Like if I liked something, then I was going to continue to do my best to do it again.
When you were doing coke, did you always have to be drunk, or could you do it sober?
Like I preferred to be drunk because it kind of brought you back to reality a little bit. So I liked playing that game. But toward the end, I mean, there were days I was just doing straight coke and I wasn't even drinking on it.
No, because I was just wondering, because it, like, people, it always comes back to like marijuana being like the gateway drug, but I'm starting to like believe it's more alcohol. Well, it is for me for sure.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I
I
think
was,
I
I was the same way when if I were to drink, I was getting a bag no matter what. It always came down to that.
Yeah, 100% for me too. But yeah, Coke, like, and just stimulants in general were more of my thing. I'm just, I don't know, wired that way to like enjoy those more. I just got like a surge of endorphins every time I did them. Not that I would ever like turn down a Xanax or something or like a Percocet, because I never did. I just would never get as excited if you offered me a Xanax, but I also wouldn't complain. So.
Yeah, and
Well,
I want to know with your like growing up with your friends. So like you said that you were pretty much the middleman, and I mean, did you do that to like fit in to be able to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where you said you got this load of confidence, and after you did that, did you not have that before, or did you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I I don't think I did to like that extent have it. I mean, I wouldn't say that I was like totally unconfident either, because I was pretty popular in high school and I was able to like talk to people and make friends even when I was just sober. But it I don't know, it gave me like an extra boost. And I just I just always wanted to feel that way. And then the second you start like putting those things in your body too, like the when you come back to baseline and when you sober up, you're just like automatically at a lower baseline because you just depleted like all your dopamine and
Yeah.
serotonin. So like, the more and more I did it, like the less and less confident I would feel when I was just at like a sober baseline. But in terms of like getting like being the guy that always had stuff and turn to try to fit in, like that wasn't it. Like I was I was the middleman purely because like I was addicted, and I wanted to like I was selfish with it. Like I wanted to be involved. Like I wanted to make sure that I had some. If you were gonna come along, cool. But if not, then like whatever, I didn't care. But I think that was I didn't really pull any like identity or like self-confidence from the fact of like being the drug guy. In fact, I would prefer people like didn't know that, because I think in the back of my head too, I was like always like like more and more I was getting concerned that like, oh, like I might like really be addicted. Like I remember some nights where I would just like bring Molly out with me to the party and like not really tell anybody that I had Molly and just be like popping Molly by myself and just kind of being like I don't know like if this is like a bad thing or not and just like never wanting to like fully confront it.
So so even at that young age, you had a shame associated with your addiction. Whether you realize it or not, you kind of had a feeling of what I'm doing may not exactly be the kosher thing to do, and people may look down on me for doing this.
100%. Yeah.
Now, was that what you do you think that aided in your decision to get clean, or was there a very specific moment?
My decision to get clean was kind of like complicated, I feel like, because it was very much like I was I was spiraled out of control at such a young age that like I was still a kid and I was still like being supported and not like very independent on my own. So like my addiction kind of depended on other people in my life, like my parents, who were, funding me and like doing things for me that like I just wasn't fully independent yet. So I feel like when you're somebody who's like younger, like under 21, who's getting clean, it's just kind of like, and being that if assuming you're not totally independent, like your other people have more of an influence on you getting clean than somebody who's like 35 who lives by themselves and is totally independent. So like, I didn't have like my own place when I was 19, 20 years old. So I couldn't just like fuck off and like get high the way I wanted to get high. If my parents kicked me out, which they did a ton of times, then I would have to be homeless and I would be homeless for a while. And then eventually I would just run out of money, run out of like literally everything, and then like be left with no options except to go to detox and kind of hit a reset button, and I would do that. And then I would basically just convince my parents that I was good. Come back to my either my mom or my dad's place. My parents were divorced. I also like would play their divorce against them because they really didn't like each other. So I'd be bouncing back from house to house. And yeah, so just it was kind of just like I was being thrown into detox because like I literally had no other options and no other place to go except to be homeless, and then I would go and be homeless for a few days and totally run out of cash, get in trouble with someone or something, and then have to like call and be like, all right, send me back to detox, go back to detox for a few days. um and I think it was also like a battle with like there was just no other young people, or young people were very sparse at all the detoxes and rehabs I was going to. So I was like an 18, like 19-year-old kid going to these rehabs and just not really like knowing how to even start with processing the thought of I'm never going to be able to drink again at 19 years old when I'm not even 21 yet, when literally all the happy like 60% of the happiness like leading up to that point in my life was derived from going out to the bar and drinking with my friends, doing drugs with my friends. So it was just like a very hard thing for me to chew on. But I think that a combination of me I was just beat up, right? I was beat up. I remember I was in and out of psych wards. I hated going to psych wards, but I would be up on crack and coke for like 5 days, so I'd be totally out of my mind. They'd throw me in a psych ward, and then I would get out of the psych ward, and eventually, like I was just going to homeless shelters, and I had an opportunity to get on a plane and go down to a nice rehab in Florida or go to the Atlantic City homeless shelter. And for whatever reason, and I still don't know how I made this decision because every single time I would go to the homeless shelter, but for this one particular reason, I was just fresh out of a psych ward, so basically detox, and I was just like, you know what, just put me on the plane. Went down to Florida, got in this rehab center for 30 days, met some kids that were my age that were doing AA, and these kids were like fired up about AA. And it was like something I had never seen before. Because usually when you go to rehab, it's like everybody's in a shitty mood. Nobody really wants to do anything except watch movies on their bed. And these kids were just excited about AA. They wanted to go. They were open to going. They wanted to get a sponsor. They wanted to share in the meetings. They wanted to stay after the meetings and talk to people. They wanted to pick up a chip. They were excited to get their 30-day chip. They were coming home and doing step work. They were excited to like get in the rehab van and just like stuff that I was just like never. I'd been to like a bunch of rehabs and detoxes at this place. I was just not used to that. And they were like the only kids there. So I was forced by necessity to kind of hang out with these kids. And thank God I was, because by day 15 it was like kind of wearing off on me. And what I really liked about it was like this idea of like, and it was like the meetings we were going to too, is like this idea of like what sobriety could do to their life, not over the course of like 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, but if they were to stay sober at their age and let sobriety iterate for a decade, for 2 decades, because the meetings we were going to had guys with 15 years, 25 years in the meeting sharing their story, like totally kicking ass in life. And I think the clientele at the rehab and these young people I was with, like seeing that example and seeing that, like, okay, like this isn't like a 6 month like transition. This isn't even like a year transition. This isn't even like a 5 year transition. This is a long game because sobriety iterates. So they were really into this idea of like what would happen if they removed one thing from their life for a decade, and how that would dramatically change the course of their life over that long time frame. And I've kept that idea in my head the whole time I've been sober, and it's really been working out for me because what it does is it kind of like removes you from expecting the gratification to come after 1 year or after 2 years, because we all know sobriety is like super painful. It's like you kind of have to look at it for its ability to iterate, because that's really like where the gem is in sobriety. It's like this thing that just like it just continues to branch out and it continues to grow in every single area of your life. So I think that that idea getting in my head was kind of like, okay, like I could like imagine myself being sober for a while.
It's honestly, it's great that you mentioned all of that because even in terms of physical fitness and diet, I've said the same thing where it's not, oh, I messed up today, so I'm just going to throw away today. It's not about just the week. It's not about the month. It's about the choices you make for a lifetime. You're not just doing a diet. Anything you eat is your diet. So you're making the positive changes in terms of like, this is my whole life now, not a thing I'm doing for the moment. And it's interesting that you mentioned at first when your parents would throw you out, how you would be homeless for a few days and then convince them you're fine and then go back. Because at first it seemed like you were almost really a victim of your environment in the sense of you get thrown out of your house and you have nobody that you can turn to that's a positive influence. Like your parents are there for you. Obviously, they love you, but the positive influence that you did have was an enabling influence at the time. And then the only people you could turn to would be friends who, at this stage in your life, were more than likely people who would also drink, people who would also do drugs, because that's the friend group you have. Sober people don't tend to hang out with people who have a serious addiction and vice versa. And then when you finally got into that rehab facility, you met up with other people your age, a peer group that was on the path that you wanted to be on. So now you had a different environment that influenced you super strongly. So I'm really glad that you touched on that, because that really shows the impact of having a core group of people in your life, a solid support system that are there with the same goals in mind, that are there to support you and pick you up, versus we've talked a lot about, when you decide to get sober and you still try and hang out with your old friends, and some of them pressuring you to engage in the activities that you did before, some of them kind of just almost ridiculing you, like, oh, what's you pussy, you're not going to have a drink, like, come on. And just really trying to make themselves feel better by getting you to do what they're doing, which goes again back to the guilt that you said you had with hiding a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think it was a big environmental thing, especially in the at the start of it too. And I would go from that rehab in Florida, I would go out west to Los Angeles, and I would stay in a year-long structured sober living program out there. And that was like another big environmental thing for me too. And it was also like me developing into an adult. Like there was just there were rules there that like really didn't even have anything to they like didn't have anything to do with sobriety, but they had everything to do with sobriety, if you know what I mean. Like waking up and making your bed every day, waking up at the same time every day, cleaning your dish every day, being
The
a respectful
routine.
roommate, routine. Yeah,
Did,
discipline. Yeah,
did
yep.
you have that structure growing up, like in the like from your parents?
I mean, I could have like I didn't, it was kind of like more on me. I went to school every day,
No, I
when
just mean with like the because my parents were in the military, and like you have a lot of we have a lot of the same like we have a lot of things in common, like the way we grew up and our like addiction.
yeah,
Like I was thinking, because you know how like it kind of seemed like you know how when you finally quit, you were still like contemplating, oh, this I was looking forward to being 21. Like you know how you had that like, and you found out that you like you became more mature later as you got. I'm wondering because with me, I had that immaturity growing up too, and I'm wondering if it has to do with one drinking at a young age, and you know how your like frontal cortex, or I don't know if that's the right word for it, but how for men it doesn't develop until we're like 25.
yeah.
So, like I'm wondering like if that's like if that goes together, because I was very immature until I was forced like until I pretty much hit rock bottom, and I knew it's either jail for me or death. So but I just wanted to put that because it's weird how people who start drinking at a young age, like they develop that like immaturity. It's and they don't they get the maturity later on in life after like a few years or so of being sober.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I just think it's like necessary. Like your external environment is like almost like a representation of your mind. So like if your, bedroom's a mess or your bed's not made every single day, then like that's weighing impact on your headspace, whether or not you know it. So that was like a big thing that I eventually realized after like being forced to do that. But no, like I was never really forced to do that when I was in my childhood. It was only until I was at this structured sober living out west. And if I didn't do those things too, like there was consequences. So I had to. We would have to write essays every day if we messed up. I mean, we were always writing essays because you were like always messing up on little things. But like big things, like they would hit you with like a 2,500 word essay, that you'd have to write.
But what
So
do you think about that? Like, because it seems like you like with the AA, and then it seems with that, it seems as if you need that structure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely need it. I think a lot of people need it, especially like the younger generation of people trying to get sober. I'm a huge advocate of it. I mean, it sucked going through that place. It was god awful because it was just like not like it was net you're never comfortable. You can never just like relax because your roommates are like holding you accountable all the time. If your laundry basket's overflowing, you're getting written down and you have like 500 words the next day for that. You have to go to like 2 meetings a day. But like I don't know, like it changed my life, and I've never really lived in an environment like that, and an environment that accountability was like so just like openly like being used, and structure was just so openly being used. I honestly I would love to start my own sober living when I'm having some more time and I'm not like in a ton of debt. Um, at some point, and make it just like the place that I got sober in, because I'm a big believer in that kind of behavioral modification, especially for the younger generation.
so that's yeah, so that's what I wanted to touch on next. So you were saying that you were really big on the structure, and you did the steps, you did the whole 12 step program kind of thing.
Yeah,
So one of the things we talk a lot about on this show is sustainability, how you'll hear a whole bunch of people telling you what you should do, but ultimately the best thing that you should do is the thing that works for you, that you can continue to do.
right.
Like when I got sober, I just white knuckled it. I woke up one day after cracking my head open on my kitchen floor and just said, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah,
Luke had a really bad like anxiety attack after a night of drinking, and just kind of put himself through a like a little week long detox kind of rehab thing. So, what do you think about doing the program? Because you're obviously advocating for how successful it was, and you want to, be able to do that kind of program for other people. What do you think it was about the sober living that worked for you versus other attempts where maybe just doing a little detox didn't work, or even just having a traumatic event, your parents kicking you out not being the wake up call? What was it about the structure of AA and the 12 step and all of that that worked for you and finally made the impact to stick?
Yeah, so I agree with you. Like, I think everybody's different, and there's definitely no right way to get sober. And that is so true. Like, when you first are getting sober, everybody wants to tell you what they think you should do. And first of all, like, I really don't think that, like, I think a big thing that I think one thing that we could probably all agree on here is that, like, if you're gonna listen to anybody, like you should probably listen to somebody who is sober and has some time. If you are gonna take those suggestions, you should probably, because a lot of the people that were trying to tell me what to do when I was first getting sober, like weren't in recovery themselves. And I think that's like a big thing now too, like that I'm coming to realize being in medical school. It's just, people are going into addiction medicine and like, but like none of these people actually have their own recovery experience or anybody in their family that has recovery experience, and it's just all about medicine, and it's all about, oh, this drug's going to block this receptor, and therefore your spiritual problem and dilemma that you've been dealing with your whole entire life is just going to be erased because I'm giving you this pharmaceutical. It's just like that's not how it works. You need to be able to connect with the person. There's nothing like sitting down with somebody that has like that's literally been through the exact same thing that like you've been through, and you get like that piece of human connection where you're just like, oh, this guy gets me. Like whether or not that's in an AA room, whether or not that's in a sober living, or whether or not like that could just be in your dining room or in McDonald's, like it doesn't have to be, it's just like that feeling of like, all right, this guy's been, it's like that hope, like I can see myself in you, and you figured it out, and I might be able to figure it out because you figured it out. So maybe I can. Um, but I mean, I think what worked for me was like, yeah, like waking up every day and kind of like just getting my ass kicked because I was in a lot of pain and I had a lot. We're talking about anxiety. I had anxiety. Woke up every single day. I hated myself. I mean, I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't talk to my roommate, let alone a attractive girl to try, like none of it. I was totally like stuck in my head. I wouldn't even be, I'd be sitting in AA meetings and I wouldn't be able to like get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the meeting because I would be afraid that everybody was going to look at me while I was walking to the bathroom and start judging me. I remember one time I was forced to speak at an AA meeting because I'd like gotten like 3 months or 6 months sober. I was so afraid. I literally could not public speak. I was so afraid. I sat on this podium for like 15 minutes in dead silence, just shaking. And like, but like, I was forced to like do those things and just like figure it out. And I think that like by me doing that, by me like and it's the same thing with the running too. It's just like by me putting myself in these situations where like a lot of the times like I just have to figure it out. I think that that really is the way that I work best. It's like trial and error. It's just like I don't have this big crutch or social lubricant of drinking alcohol anymore because like I can't handle it. So therefore, like I need to go in these situations, like, and I need to be able to figure it out. And like gradually, like throughout this 6 year process, I've just kept doing that, and it's been terrible at most of the time. Like I got close friends going through it right now that are like 3 months, 6 months sober. That are we all know that time period is like it's terrible. Like it just sucks. Like you're adapting to like this whole entire new life, and it's just like you don't have like your best friend anymore. It's terrible. But for me, like I think that like the structure and the discipline of it was definitely something I started to lean on like I would lean on alcohol. And also like the people were great. I was around young people even when I went to LA to that structured house. I mean, it was all young people there. I had great like mentors there, a lot of them which have like died as a result since because they've like gone back out. So like that's also like, just kept it really real for me because it's just like, damn, like this is thing is no joke. I mean, like I got people I used to live with for a year that are like deciding that they want to pick up again and go back out and, put on their research coat and do some more research to see if they're a real alcoholic or not. And then they're in a coffin. It's like it's not cool. And I think so seeing that And in terms of AA, I mean, what AA really did for me is like, one, it like allowed me to be vulnerable with somebody by going through the steps. I mean, I think that's a big deal. And two, and this didn't really come up until like maybe like year 2 or 3 of my sobriety, but like, and I don't know how religious you guys are, but finding God was a huge part of my sobriety. And just being able to talk to God in prayer and having somebody to kind of just having that underlying faith that like even when everything is going wrong, even when I'm waking up sober and want to kill myself, like I'm going through this for some reason, some deeper reason that I can't really see or make out yet myself, because I'm not God, but like I know he's putting me through this terrible moment to get somewhere else, so I can either like become somebody that he wants me to be, or I can help somebody that he needs me to help, and I need this experience to do that. So I think AA is like the biggest piece of that, was like that spiritual connection to God.
So, and I have two directions I want to go. One, I wanted to ask how you navigated friendships going through and coming out of this, because we've also talked a lot about how you wind up losing your friend group because you realize that you weren't really friends and that the main thing you had in common was the addiction that you shared. So, they were drinking friends, they were cocaine friends, they were weed friends. And then when you start to get clean, you realize that these people aren't as fun as I thought they were, or we really don't have as much in common. So, how did you navigate those friendships going into and going through this and coming out of this? And also in terms of your faith, is that something that you had before, like during the addiction, or is that something you picked up in 12 step with the new friends that you made along the way?
I'll do the faith one first because that'll be quicker. So the faith I never really had before. I mean, I grew up like semi-religious. We went to church on holidays. My parents tried, but I never really like prayed. Like I never really did any of that. I never really relied on God. I mean, like I didn't even really think about it. So I don't know. Like, was I an atheist? Did I believe? I'm not really sure. I just like it wasn't as important, nearly as important as it is to me now. But that all came, and like I said, like that didn't even really end up coming until like year 2 or 3 of sobriety. Like that was like a next level to get to. I was like, oh, I got this God thing. Like I haven't even explored this. And then like you start exploring that and all the freedom that comes with like being able to rely on something greater than yourself. And it's just like, oh wow, this is like really, lifting that anxiety, lifting that depression, making me feel better, giving me more purpose. So that was that. In terms of my friends. Yeah, I mean, I had some friends that were strictly using friends for sure that I just had to cut off. And like honestly, it wasn't even hard. Like we didn't even really talk. We had nothing in common other than we just used drugs together. But a lot of my friends too, especially from high school, like they're good guys. Like yeah, we got high together, but like they didn't like they weren't it wasn't like an ill intent thing. Like it was just like they weren't addicts and I was. And I don't hang out with them a lot now because they're still kind of doing their thing and I just live a very different lifestyle. But I also like don't, I haven't just like totally cut them off. Like I still communicate with them to some degree. But the other thing that I got from AA is friendships, and just in sobriety in general, I've gotten like really good friendships because you have that common denominator of like you've all been through the same thing.
Shared
um,
trauma.
Shared trauma. And I've gotten like honestly, like I'm like friend wise, like sometimes I'm just like I feel like I'm good because of like all the connections I have in AA. Like there's like a title that we use, some people that I go to AA with. It's called like a one ring friend, and basically like what that is like when I have people I can call that will literally pick up on the first ring. It's like they have like a small army like answering their phone calls for them, or I'll text them and they'll text me back in like 30 seconds just because like I don't know, like it's just like they're worried about me, they're concerned about me, they care about me, and I'll give like an example real quick. I was running my first 100-mile race about like 3 years ago, maybe. It was like in Ohio. It was like really cold. It was a brutal race. And I was out on mile 80 and I really wanted to quit. And I called one of my buddies from AA, picked up on the first ring, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, just I need you to tell me to keep going." I told him the situation, and he's like, "David, like, I'm not gonna hang up with you till you cross the finish line." Now I'm on mile 80. I still have to run 20 miles. It's 11 at night. The guy I'm calling is like 60 years old. Like he's not like a 20-year-old that can just stay up all night. And he's like, I'm like, no, you don't have to. He's like, I'm not gonna hang up with you until you finish the race. So like, let's just keep going. And he's talking me through every step. He's telling me like he's reading me inspirational quotes. He's going on my Instagram and reading me the shit that I post on my Instagram
Uh,
through my headphones. So I'm getting fired up. At one point, it's like 3 in the morning because I called him at 11 p.m. I didn't finish the race until 4 a.m. So he's literally on the phone with me all night. At one point at like 3 a.m., he's putting on his running shoes and he's doing laps around his neighborhood at night with me on the phone while I'm doing laps in Ohio, finishing up my race.
Oh man.
And I finished the race at like 4:30 in the morning. He's been on the phone with me all night. He made me FaceTime him. We switched the call to a FaceTime when I was crossing the finish line so he could see my face. And yeah, I mean, dude, come on. Like you don't get that anywhere else. Like that's a sobriety bond right there.
Yeah.
And that's what I get in AA. And I got people like that all the time. That's why like even when I come up to med school, it's like I don't even feel a big desire to like go and be super social in my class because like honestly, I got 10 people in my back pocket on my phone. I could call up, they're gonna pick up on the first ring. I could have a 30-minute conversation with them, or they'll drive up and see me at med school and we'll hit a meeting together and get some food. Like I don't know. Like it's just like that common bond, that trauma bond, and it's beautiful. And I just have people like that I call about everything. So
Yeah, and I mean having a support system like that definitely makes life and all other things so much easier. How I can see how the transition would happen, but how did the transition from getting sober and getting your life back together to ultra marathon runner, how did that happen?
so that happened because I got sober out west, decided I wanted to go back to school. I think you said something about being a nurse. I was in nursing school before I was in medical school. So I was in a nursing program. I had failed out. Well, not failed, but like took a medical leave base. I mean, my GPA was terrible. I probably would have failed out. I wasn't going to class, you know, was drinking, all that, got sober, was out west, wanted to go back to school, came back to school. Obviously, like, I'm like 21. I'm back on a college campus. I'm like a year sober. At this point, I'm in Philly, so I like left all my sober group, my sober community in California. I'm back in Philly. I don't know a single person that's sober. I actually checked myself into another sober living because I'm like, I just need to meet people. It's the last thing I wanted to do was walk into another sober living after being in that brutal structured sober living for a year. It's the last fucking thing I wanted to do, but I knew I had to do it because my sobriety needed to be number one. I was about to go back on a college campus and be like around people that were drinking. The same college campus I was getting loaded at, I was going back to. So like I knew I needed to check myself into that rehab, even if it was the last thing I wanted to do. And this is another thing that I don't think people talk about enough is that like you need to have that mindset with sobriety. It needs to be number one. The second that it's not number one, if you're a real alcoholic and addict, you are 100% going to drink again. It has to be top of your priority list at all times. So if I'm coming home from LA, even though I was in a structured sober living, even though I could tell myself I'm a year sober, I'm good. I can go live in a dorm. I can do that. I can stay sober. I'll go to AA. I need to go, no, I need to go into sober. Like I need to do everything I can do to protect my sobriety, because that's just like the reality of being like an alcoholic and an addict for me. Like my mind will talk me into it. So I need to be very careful about that. So I did that. And when I was back at school, I was like, all right, well, I need some people to hang out with at school that aren't drinking. So then I was like, cross country team. So I joined the cross country team, started running with them, and basically became a college athlete, basically was competing on the team. Great people on the team, like met some really good friends that were just like quality people, not drinking a lot. We were hanging out. Eventually I moved out of the sober living, moved in with them and had a coach that I was like, I told my coach about my sobriety. Everybody on the team basically like knew my deal, and I just like had that support there. That was like, those people aren't even really sober, but they just like felt just like a sober support group. And then basically I left college and I've just experimented with running, and I think it's just like a testimony of my personality. Like I said, I was always like kind of obsessive. If I like something, I do it to the extreme, and I think ultra marathons are like the extreme of running. And it was just, I liked running. I did it in college, and it was like, it was giving me an outlet to blow off steam and become more confident. And naturally, I was just like, all right, let's just see how far I can take it. And then I started doing 50 milers, 100 milers.
So what's next for you? I mean, obviously you're still in med school, you're going through to be a neurosurgeon, and you're not specializing in addiction recovery, but that's a thing you want to focus on as well. So where do you go from here, both in terms of life, of career, of fitness and ultra marathon running? What's next for you?
So like I feel like my life is like three big things right now. It's like in terms of like career oriented things, like the Instagram page that I have, I love doing that. I love, reaching people on there. I know Luke has a page too. Like he probably relates. Like there's people that are just in your DMs that you're helping out all the time just by like putting some words together and like sharing your experience online. That's a great feeling. I'd like to keep doing that. I'm not really sure where that's going to go. I kind of just like let that be and just like send prayers up to God and just be like, listen, just like guide me in whatever direction you see fit with this. And I'm kind of just rolling with it in that way. And I've been rolling with it in that way since I started it. So I'm planning to just continue doing that. Medical school is like a whole thing because it's like super busy and I'm like not naturally intelligent. I've never been. My SAT scores in high school were like borderline learning disability. I mean, I was drinking and stuff like that and, never really a good student. I became a good student only when I got sober. And I never really knew that I could be a good student at all. So that being said, I am not the sharpest tool in the toolbox in medical school. And, I can't just read something out of a textbook and then remember it for the rest of my life. So it kind of takes me a lot of time to really learn things and pass all my courses here. So I don't have the most abundant amount of free time. But this is definitely like number one priority. This is definitely like what I feel as though I was like made to do. Neurosurgery, especially. I think it's like I call neurosurgery like the ultra marathon of medicine. You have surgeons doing like 20-hour surgeries, doing like really just cool stuff, helping patients that are super vulnerable. Somebody comes in with something wrong with their head or their brain. I mean, these are patients that are like, they're very sick, they're very ill, they're very concerned for their life. And like to be in that position of like, to have the skill to like offer to these people to like literally like save their life is honestly a privilege. And I feel like my intensity and my experience with sobriety will very much like help me in that field because like, I've done long races. I can, I know I can like push myself. And also like I know what it feels like to be on the other side of like the hospital bed, to be in the gown. I know that feeling. So that and then like my own personal fitness and like diet and everything like that is kind of just like I fit it in when I can. I mean, I'm always working out, like I'm always working out. But like in terms of racing is a big commitment. I can't just be running 80-mile weeks while med school's going on because it's just like I'm not going to be able to juggle everything. But I think it's just like finding time when time opens up, then I just like take advantage of it and I just do. Like I just do. Oh, this would be a good time to train for a race and do a race, then I'm going to do it. Um, but for the moment, I mean, I just did two big races. So I'm kind of like, I lost a lot of weight. I'm in the gym now. I'm trying to put back on my weight. I heard you guys talking about diet. I'm like trying out some new diet right now. I'm like on that red meat, eggs, high cholesterol, trying to get that
Oh,
high,
the carnivore.
not really like carnivore. I guess it's carnivore. I'm new to it. I'm like day two. So I'm like, I've just been like reading on it a little bit and I'm like, trying to put some weight back on. I just like ran off like 20 pounds this summer. So I'm like trying to eat like a ton of eggs and red meat.
How many pounds do you lose a race? About like a 24-hour race? How many pounds would you lose?
Just in the 24-hour race, like maybe like only like five, but like over the whole span of like training for it and everything, I lose a lot. I lost like close to 20 pounds in 2 months training for
Yikes.
those races. So yeah,
Well, and as a future neurosurgeon and a marathon runner, the importance of carbs. So don't
that
forget,
yeah,
don't forget how wonderful carbs are.
100%. Yeah, I'm still eating carbs as well. I'm not just eating that carnivore. I don't even know like what the diets are. I'm kind of just like I'm doing my research. I'm trying to figure out what works for me. I've never really had like uh diet that I've like stuck to. I've always just been a runner, and my mindset has always just been like, all right, I run a lot, I can just eat whatever I want. And now I'm trying to like dial it in and be like, all right, maybe I should be like more conscientious of exactly what I'm putting in my body. Because just like alcohol, it's like the next step down from like not drinking. It's like you're not putting alcohol in your body. Alcohol is a poison. And then it's like, I'm not putting alcohol in my body. I'm talking all this shit on my Instagram about why you shouldn't put alcohol in your body and how it's like toxic. And then it's like, but I'm putting like all this food in my body that's like, potentially just as dangerous as alcohol. So it's like maybe I should do my research and start like eating more clean.
Oh yeah, caloric intake, managing your calories, being in the surplus. The protein will definitely help build muscle, but you have a whole cornucopia of other things you need to worry about in terms of macronutrients, micronutrients, and just making sure that your body's running optimally. And
Right.
I mean, you're gonna burn all that stuff anyway, so
Yeah.
you got to keep the carbs for the brain so you can you need sharp tools in neurosurgery. You can't have a bunch of dull tools while you're trying to work on
100%.
people's brains.
100%. I agree. Yeah.
So I guess there's two final questions. One, where do you think your life would be right now if you didn't make the decision to take accountability, take back your life, and get on the path that you're on now? And two, what advice do you have for other people in terms of everything, in terms of sobriety, in terms of following your dreams, in terms of reaching your goals, finding something that works for you with, ultra marathon running or weightlifting or just anything that you want to pursue in life? What is your advice for people trying to get to the point where, not so much where you're at now, but the point where you're at in their own life?
So the first question, sorry, what was the first question again?
Where do you think your life would be at right now if you didn't make the decision to get clean and sober?
Right. So I'm very grateful that my addiction like spiraled out of control very quickly because especially in AA, like I see a lot of guys that like they were never really like bad to the point where like they had to go to a detox or a psych ward, and they were kind of just like functioning alcoholic, I guess would be the correct term. And then like eventually it like just comes to a head, and like they just can't, they can't keep doing it, or like a health concern comes up or something, and then they're in AA and they're just like, oh, I like wasted all this time, like I could have like just stopped when I was like whatever. Like I'm so grateful that like that didn't happen to me. Like for whatever reason, God had me spin out of control so viciously and violently right from the jump that like I ended up in all these psych wards, all these detox, all these rehabs, and like I just I was able to change at like a younger age. So I think that I'm very glad that that didn't happen, and I think that like if I never ended up getting sober, I mean I would for sure be dead. I mean, a lot of my friends who were doing the same shit I was and like the same way I am are dead because they never got sober. So I mean, I would definitely say that I'd be dead. The second question about advice, I mean, on my Instagram, I always say, I know this is easier said than done, especially if you're an addict, alcoholic, but I think that the best thing you can do for yourself, and this is for like all people, this isn't just for addicts, alcoholics, is to quit alcohol, to stop drinking alcohol. I think that there's like physical health benefits related to that. I think that there is mental health benefits. I know there's mental health benefits related to that. And I think that there's also an abundance of spiritual benefits related to that. I think it's the best bang for your buck that you can do in terms of self-help is quitting alcohol. I think that just by removing that one thing, you get so many things in return that like the trade-off is totally worth it every single time. I would put my money on that and I would die on that hill, and I'll continue to talk about it on my Instagram because I literally think it's the best thing that you can do. Whether you're an addict, whether you have a problem, whether you drink every weekend, whether you drink once a month, whether you drink once a year, it's definitely in your best interest to quit alcohol and to go after and to find yourself and to figure out exactly what you want to do. So that would be my advice.
Nice. Well, and I know you're all about awareness over anything. So is there anything you want to plug? You want to go ahead and shout out your Instagram or any causes you might be working with or that you believe in or anything you're personally working on?
Yeah, just my only tag would just be at David period Millar, Millar period mindset on Instagram. I post on that Instagram pretty much daily. I've been doing it for about a year now. I post clips of other people. I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff, so I clip other people, put them on there. I also write a lot of my own quotes, put them on there. I share my experience in going through medical school as somebody sober. I share my experience of going through undergrad and being in college as a sober individual, and staying sober in college. I also share plenty of my experience with just being in recovery in general. And I also share all of my running and all my training and lifting and diet and everything. Everything is on that page. So
Cool. Luke, anything you wanna
No,
add or ask?
that page is motivating. It's inspirational, and so if anyone's out there like that needs a like some sort of motivation or inspiration, you can check it out because I met him doing my page, and it's I got a lot of good ideas from his page and stuff.
likewise.
Well, and David, I'm going to put you on the spot here. There's something we like to do at the end of every episode, and that's to leave people with an inspirational quote. And since you said you write some of your own quotes and put them on there, I'm going to put you on the spot and let you choose an inspirational quote to leave people with for today.
Okay.
Isn't this great how I just remembered I didn't do it and then I just push off the responsibility?
No, I definitely have one. Just trying to think of a good one. All right, I'm just gonna go. I got it on my wall. It's actually on this white poster right here. If it were easy, everybody would do it.
There you go. Yeah. Nothing good is easy and everything worth having takes work. So, David, thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing talking to you. It's been truly inspirational. Like
Thanks, David.
I feel like I need to drag my fat ass outside for a run now and
Yeah, I want to do I want to start running now like a 3K, but ultra marathons is that's wild, man.
Dude, you start like I'm telling you, you start running like 2 miles, the alcoholic brain just goes like, all right, how far can I go? 10K.
Yeah, because I felt the runner's high, like it's real, but
it's wild.
I've only felt it on the treadmill. Like it's running outside it's like I could run 3-4 miles easily on a treadmill, but it's the same like effort as running 1 mile like on a trail. So
Right.
it's wild.
Yeah. It is the addictive personality. Like I started when I could barely run like a block and then it was like always in competition with myself. Like I'm going to go to this block and then I would still have juice. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to that car. And then you just keep going and going. And then, eventually you can do a mile and then you're doing a 5K. And then, you get up to 10K and you're like, I want to do a marathon. And your wife says, don't become a runner. Runners' bodies are gross. And then you give up. So that was my journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to follow at david.millar.mindset on Instagram. You can follow Luke's sobriety page at sober.4l on Instagram. You can also follow Lucas Weaver. No, it's not Lucas Weaver. Luke Weaver, LVKE Weaver on Instagram. I'm at Maddie Ding Dong, and you can follow us at Strong and Sober Podcast. And if you have any questions, comments, you're looking for advice, you want to share your success story, feel free to reach out to us either on Instagram or Strong and Sober Podcast at gmail.com. Again, thank you to David. Thank you to my co-host, Lucas Weaver. I'm Matt. And this has been Strong and Sober Podcast, episode 11. Don't forget to tune in next week. And as always, stay strong, stay sober, stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.